If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all listening platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, everyone. This is Theo from Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Theo, and Vincent. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube page at Making It Make Sense ITV and listen out for new episodes every Friday. Follow us on Instagram and leave us a comment at Making It Make Sense ITV. We look forward to hearing from you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Theo, and Vincent, a.k.a. Victor.
Already? I'm not even a minute in.
Let's welcome him back. He's part of the crew now.
Yes.
And today we are going to speak about religion versus spirituality. Very interesting.
Oi. It's a lot.
Go ahead, Isaiah. Sounds like you want to jump right in there.
Don't mind if I do. I guess really, let's I guess get into.
Let's start off with how you're raised.
You can. What I also want to do too is, if you guys, either one of you don't mind, should we define religion versus spirituality? Should we define religion and define spirituality?
Okay, so religion is the belief in or worship of a superhuman controlling power.
Now.
Especially a personal god or gods.
I like that. I like that a lot. And spirituality.
Spirituality.
A little more.
I'm looking that shit up right now. That one I had it always because for some reason I'm always talking about religion. Spirituality is relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. Is that a good one or not?
I like that. What do you think, Ben?
He's heard better in jail.
Top of Google. So the next one down. What's the next one down? So
the next one down. Spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or sense of belief. There is something greater than myself, something more to being human than sensory experience, and that a greater whole of which we are part of is cosmic or divine in nature.
I might fall a little bit into that one.
I like that one.
I like that one too. That one hit me. That hit me right in the heart.
Absolutely.
Well, it says an opening of the heart is an essential aspect of true spirituality.
Oh, I
look at that. I have no heart, so I can't be spiritual.
That's a fantastic layout. I like that.
So now that we got those definitions out there into the universe, I think we should start like how Vincent said. How were we raised? I was raised by a coyote. I have 666 tattooed on my forehead. And I am considered the second coming of Christ, aka the Antichrist.
How
about you?
Wait, Theo, so you weren't raised with any particular religion in mind?
Oh no. I was raised Muslim.
Okay.
And very religious Muslim. I prayed multiple times a day. I went to what we call Juma on Fridays. The reason I speak Arabic is because I had to learn to read.
I don't speak Arabic.
Unfortunately, I had to learn I had to learn to read the Quran. And if you want to be a true, authentic Muslim, and it also is like a bragging right too. You get to recite the Quran in this very cool. Is cool like chanting, which is beautiful. But I was raised a super duper religious Muslim. I dressed up in the whole garb and everything.
Oh wow.
That used to be my uniform for many, many, many years.
It's not.
So I was raised Muslim, and from I think as we continue talking, I still consider myself Muslim, but not religious based, spirituality based.
I'm kind of like, I see where you're going with that too, because I'm kind of similar with like how I was raised and then where I'm at now.
How
About
were
you,
you raised?
Isaiah? Oh well,
Yeah.
I was raised Catholic. Both my parents were Catholic, and they're still, they still do church on the Sunday. And actually, I had like a pretty good experience being raised Catholic. I just kind of got to other points in my life where I kind of just didn't agree with certain stuff, which we definitely get into. What about you, Isaiah?
So I was raised, well, as per my mom's dog tags. Love you, Mom. No. So Baptist, Pentecostal. But obviously it's not something I'd stayed completely in alignment with, because I found that it wasn't so much fitting for me. And then as I got older, I moved into a more non-denominational, sorry, I can't speak, non-denominational space. And then from there, I just became a lot more interested in and aligned with a more spiritual, so more spiritual than religious type of alignment for me. And I found that was just more broad, more accepting. And that's what I felt was more, I felt that it was more personal, because I feel that it's a more personal relationship than religion for me. So
Have you thought about being able to see? I still consider myself like Catholic as well, and also spiritual. Like, and kind of, I know it's weird to be kind of being able to consider yourself maybe both.
No.
But that's only if you literally keep yourself to that essentially that construct that it's been created already. And there's a lot of religion has been used so much throughout history, even currently, to oppress people, to control parts to religion. It's just with anything, taking the extremes is always the issue.
Yeah, and I feel that too, because I consider myself Muslim. Even I think I don't forget what I was doing the other day, that I was filling out some paperwork and they asked me my religion, and without thinking, I put Muslim.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And because to me, Islam is more than just a religion.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of Jewish people feel this way too, because Muslim people and Jewish people are brothers and sisters. So being Muslim is like cultural. Being Muslim is just a way of life, especially when growing up in the Middle East. Islam it was embedded in the law, in the culture, in the tradition, in everything, in day to day. So I am who I am today because of Islam.
And yeah, I agree, and that's what it is. It's like, I'm not ashamed of being raised Catholic, but I also there's a lot of values and certain morals that give you structure in developing as through your childhood, and certain stuff that is based off of it. It's just knowing when to draw the line. It sounds like most of us, the three of us, have kind of gotten to that point where it's like, okay, I see some of the bullshit that religion has done, and and I'm not with that part of it, but there's other parts of my religion that I actually cherish, and you can still have a relationship with your God or higher power without falling, kind of into that whole, you're not a good Muslim if you do A, B, C, and D, or you're not a good Catholic if you do this or don't do that, and so on and so forth. So it's one of those things I always like think back to. And there's a lot of stuff that people, I know that I'm sure there's examples in your guys' religion where it's like, after doing research and learning more about it, you find out with the whole Lent and everything that comes over, and how you're not supposed to eat fish and stuff like that.
But that's what happens, and I think, and that's why I tell people, once again, go do your own research.
Yeah.
Go read. Go explore yourself. through exploration. So and in Islam, it's considered very prestigious. It's considered very like high class, for lack of a better word. If you get to read the Quran in its original language, which is Arabic. And through my studies, my father he forced that down my throat. And it was a blessing in disguise. And through him forcing me to read the Quran and study the Quran and study those scriptures and that doctrine, I discovered that a lot of the stuff that you hypocritical assholes are saying isn't true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say, thank you for forcing me to go and read and educate myself and find enlightenment, because you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. And I understood that there was a difference between what the scripture and what the Quran, for back to say it correctly, says, and then what these things culturally. People in different cultures in the Middle East and in religion and in Muslim countries, they have their own interpretation, or they have their own laws and how they want to enforce things.
A real good point. You have to remember, like, these scriptures and books and everything were written thousands of years ago. So the human vocabulary, everything, they didn't have such an expansive vocabulary to explain things. And even in their stories, like, everything is in its own context. So, like, context back then is completely different than context now. And I think people tend to forget that, or usually take the context and make their own narrative out of it to support whatever
bullshit.
Whatever bullshit they want to try to support.
Like a lot of countries in the Middle East and that are, that are Muslim are very anti-gay. As we speak right now, a gay person is being tortured in a Muslim country. A gay person is having they're being abused,
castrated, murdered.
They're being castrated. They're being thrown off buildings, and it's all being done in the name of Islam, and saying that the Prophet Muhammad said this and that and the other, and that is a lie.
And this is what, and actually the perfect segue, because this is what brings me, because I was stewing a little bit as we were discussing. This is what brings me to the space of my belief that religion is a tool of oppression. And I'm going to start from the space of, our ancestors even, right? So let's even start with, that, like, Vincent mentioned that, these scriptures and these books were written thousands and thousands of years ago. They were written by man, right? They weren't written, as I believe it, by a spiritual being. And I feel like they were not just tools of oppression, but tools of control. You cannot do this because our God or our omnipotent being says this, the God that we worship, the master that we worship. And one of the things I've had back and forths with relatives about is that religion, and then being in America. And when I mean that religion, for me personally, Baptist and Pentecostal and Christianity. So let's kind of go there. And with Christianity, for me, I'm just going to say it straight out. To me, that is the colonizers' religion. Okay. And not to sound all hotep. Okay. But okay. But like, for real. But to me, that is the colonizers' religion. Okay. Because in that was an oppression of the original spirit guides or spiritual guides, and things such as or entities such as the Orishas, or even here, with the Native Americans, and how they worshipped multiple deities. There was never just one. And I also find that concept a little strange. I think it's the same concept that's kind of embedded in that. I feel like and not to totally veer off topic here, but I feel like the concept of there is one for everything. There is one. It's kind of like looking for everything that you need and want in one friendship,
higher power,
one relative, or one this. And I think that concept is, I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to say that this one being wants all of these things for this one, from you, when there are multiple deities
I think it
in
could
our
be dangerous. Like
ancestry.
you
And I
put it
think,
like it really depends, because it could be, it really depends on the person that's perceiving it, and
sure,
that's when they get kind of what Theo was saying, where they get super righteous, like all for Allah, like
yes.
or certain stuff. Whereas like also could be still, it's all about perspective. Where someone like, you know, I know the God I believe in like is loving and compassionate, and like, you know, loves all his like children and stuff like that, regardless of who you are. And it comes down to these people that where I'm like, you know what, like I could go and name off a bunch of shit that you probably do that you're sinning. Like no sin is better than any other. Like so
Don't
it's not your
tell them
job
that,
to,
though. They don't believe that.
they don't believe
Oh
that.
God, yeah.
It's like, all right, you having sex with condoms, like without like trying to like, procreate. It's like that is in the Bible. You can't. I think even like mixing cotton and linen and certain shit. Like, let me see that tag you're wearing. Let me see that tag that shirt. Like, what are you
It's
wearing?
just
Like,
weird.
sinner. Like, don't come for me.
Sometimes it makes me wonder, who is this God you people are worshiping? And if this is the God you're worshiping, please tell him to stay away from me and miss
I
me.
want nothing to do with this.
Miss me with the bullshit.
Because I will put my linens with my cottons. Sorry.
And like, who is this God that these people are worshiping? Who or what is this religion? And I discovered spirituality when learning to recite the Quran. It is the most spiritual. It is a you and your and let's say Allah moment. That is just you and him. And when I first did that, I got goosebumps all over my body. And every time I hear someone citing the Quran, I feel goosebumps from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And that isn't from something religious. It is from something spiritual.
I agree.
And
is that what kind of led you into kind of more of the spiritual?
Yes, and it brings me to tears. And that is what I want to embrace. And that feeling that I feel every time I'm hearing it, it does not discriminate because you're gay. Yeah. It does not discriminate because you're black, because you're white, because you're tall, because of whatever these assholes are talking about. It just wants to make you feel good and protect you. Yeah. And it wants to enlighten you, and it wants to elevate you. And that's where I found spirituality. And no one can take that away from me, whether I identify as gay, as transgender, or whatever that is. My relationship with Allah has nothing
your relationship,
to do
that's it, period.
With no one else.
Nothing to do with anybody else other than you and them.
And that's why
him, her. What about you, Isaiah? When did you actually like kind of transition kind of from more of a religious base to a more spiritual base?
So honestly, for me, it really started when my grandmother passed away, because I was looking for all of these traditional indicators of she's still with me, instead of like, but looking through religion for that, and that wasn't where I was going to find it. So it's funny now, for lack of a better word, looking back and going, why was I looking through this lens of religion about something? And that's not where I was going to find it. Because one of the things I realized is, first off, and something I kind of always knew, I guess, but really kind of like stepped into, is we're spiritual beings ourselves. And I really believe in creating, I believe in energy. I believe in creating energy amongst one another. I really believe
energy never being destroyed, just passed along.
Right, just passing along. That also for me goes in alignment with your ancestors and realizing who they were, and realizing that they show up in you today and around you, and you bring them with you. As our amazing Maya Angelou once said, you're never alone because they show up with you wherever you go. So, and I believe in that deeply, your ancestors being your grandparents and back, So I think that there's stories an energy that you live out that they didn't get to finish. Not as to say your life isn't your own. I don't mean it in that sense, but I think that I really
know. Hallelujah.
Get it. In the name of Black Jesus. But I believe in that. I believe that you're playing out certain things that your ancestors didn't get to play out. And that's why I love the quote, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. right?
Because it's true.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
Because there are pieces of them just in you. Like you're walking around with your ancestors with you at all times. And I think the other thing that's fascinating about
your DNA, Isaiah.
no, it's fine. But like there's that fascinating thing. And then that also comes from, and that's why there's so many cases in which everything is tied, to this spiritual place. Think about the fact that generational trauma. Think about the fact that at one point your mother and your grandmother were sharing a physical space together because your mother was already born with all of the unfertilized eggs she was going to have, and one of them was you. So any energy and is passed through to you because you are sharing a space together. So anything that is in your grandparents is in you, and so forth. So that's why I think the ancestral reverence is incredibly important. And so for me, that's why I think God is in us. I think
you're going straight to hell for saying that.
What's funny is,
but I agree. I've had that notion before where I feel like God's in all of us. Or
I believe.
When did you come to your spiritual journey, Vincent?
Yeah.
What's up?
When did you come to the spiritual journey or to your spirituality?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it probably was really.
Don't say yesterday.
I got there until I was like in my kind of 20s.
Not yesterday.
Honestly, like just because where it kind of started was I started questioning stuff that didn't. I'm a huge history buff, and my family's really into history.
Mm-hmm.
So I started finding stuff out slowly about the Roman Catholic Church that was really shady as fuck. And I was like, like for example, Good Friday, essentially you're not supposed to eat meat for the most part. You're only supposed to eat like fish and so on and so forth. That's because the Roman Catholic Church owned all the fish markets, and they needed pad their pockets, like certain stuff like where you could pay for your sins away and certain stuff like that. Like I'm like, nah. Or when they found like a bunch of stuff, I forgot where in one of those Dead Sea Scrolls overseas somewhere, and the Roman Catholic Church knew about some of this stuff for decades, but they knew if they released that information that that would take away from their dividends at the end of the day. And stuff like as far as and one of them actually rang with me really hard, and it was it was actually referring to it was not a commandment, but something along those lines, and it said essentially God does not want you don't have to go to church every Sunday to be a good Catholic or be a good Christian. God is essentially always with you. You could find God anywhere and have a connection with them. And it kind of started me pull away where I'm like, yeah, I don't need to go to church that doesn't make me a good Catholic or a bad Catholic. Being, trying just to be an inherently good person every day. That's what, and through that kind of started opening my eyes to questioning more. And then it ties into where, I believe in evolution and science, and it's kind of doesn't have much room or space in multiple religious cultures. It's usually one or the other, and it kind of opened my door and started looking for questions or answers to questions and stuff, and trying to make sense of my own stuff. So that's kind of led into that.
And I think that's the thing is there's a duality, I feel like, in I believe in certain aspects of the religion that I was reared in, right?
Yeah.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Exactly.
Yes. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right. And that's another reason I feel very much like, it's a lot of these things. I think it's a lot of different spaces in the world calling the same things different things and assigning different rules to each space, when really it's a bunch of collective spirits and it's a collective of spirituality. I don't think it's my God over here is correct and no, my God over here is correct. I don't think it's any of that. I think there are spirits that influence certain things I think there's some spirits you're supposed to just let them do their thing and mind your business. I think that I think, you know, I don't know. I think you can feel we're us as humans, again, and us being spiritual beings. Where do you think these senses come from? Right? That you get that.
Oh yeah, I feel there's so much that we don't even
right,
know.
that
Like,
gut
there's a lot of stuff
feeling.
that we have no idea how it works, and who's to say what it does or what doesn't, or there's so much unknown still that they're still learning stuff every day. So it's like to say anything indefinite, it's hard, like, you know, to say like anything hardcore like that. I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me.
Right, and to kind of that's why I'm very like, okay, I don't know that's the case, or you know, I'm not going to. And again, like I said, going back to, I feel very strongly about the colonizers' religion. I really do. I feel
But then there's always a beautiful thing about it too, because that actually, and tying that into, you know, it's a colonizer religion, tying that into race and stuff like that. That's what helped Black people learn to start reading, because the only book that they were allowed to be given was the Bible.
Absolutely.
So if there wasn't that, like that,
there was a positive aspect.
Bring us ahead.
It was a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword,
right?
Like, that's what I'm saying. Religion could be a beautiful thing, or it could be essentially prison. Like,
no. I believe that too. I think that religion has saved a ton of people's lives.
Oh, for sure.
I know personally some my Christian family on my mother's side, they're very Pentecostal, so they motherfuckers speak in tongue and everything.
Oh, let me tell you.
And a lot of these folks here, they used to be drug addicts. They were addicts, and alcoholics and all this stuff. And because of religion,
it saved their lives.
It saved their lives. And today they're better people because of religion. But once again, this is, you know, is anecdotal, because I also know some people who religion has ruined their lives.
And destroyed their families, and destroyed
through religion. People got molested in the name of religion. People got abused and tortured in the name of religion. So my anecdotal experience with religion as a queer man isn't someone else's experience, because there's a lot of queer people that Islam and being Catholic and being Christian, whatever denomination you are, has tormented their lives.
Yeah, what is that? Not conversion therapy.
That is it. There you go.
Yeah, it is conversion therapy. They literally take them to like Bible camp and beat the gay out of them, like, which is not even fucking funny, but it's sick. And it's
it's like you can't pray the gay away.
Nowadays, it's like insane.
It's and just like you were saying, Vincent, like, listen, you can't beat the gay away and you can't pray the gay away, and you know, it's just, that is what really, those things are what really get to me. So it makes seeing the positivity.
Like, if you have a loving church or pastor, like, you know, religious community, that makes everything so different. Like, and that was another thing, like, when I was coming out, like in my early 20s and stuff like that. You know, like I said, both my parents are super religious, like, you know, Catholic, you know, and so we would have priests stay with us, have, you know, go like to their events, all types of stuff like that. And I remember my mom, like, you know, was concerned, like, she went to our priest, like, you know, what should I do? Like, you know, what did I do wrong? So like that. And like, you know, how, like, you know, speaking about like God, and I don't want him to go to hell and all this stuff. And the priest was like, do you love your son? She's like, yes. He's like, that's all that matters. God loves all of his children. And I've known him for his entire life. He is a good boy. Like, nothing bad is going to happen to him. Just love and support him. And that was coming from I was like, yo, like, that's why I always had that, like Theo was saying, it comes down to, like, it really depends on the person in the religious community around them, and that they're involved in, because it could be a hit or miss. It could destroy their lives or help them,
make or break you. Because my father, like, when I think of my father, and when I think of the amazing man that he was, it was because of Islam. So for me to spit in the face of Islam, once again, this is anecdotal. This is my experience, my life, my perspective. Islam played a major role in me bonding with my father. It played a major role in breaking down the walls and my father being a vulnerable man.
Yeah.
I bonded with my father and have a bond with my father that even through death is still there because Islam made that possible for me. My father teaching me how to be his interpretation of what a man was, and teaching me in a way of life, and it was through Islam, and we experienced so much with each other because of Islam. And when I came, I hate saying this, but when I came out, because I even regret that I had to come out.
What do we call? Oh yeah, really.
Because I find that process to be so abusive. But even coming out, it was about me being his son, me being your son. It's what was more important than me about the religion or what Islam or what the imam would say or what the other brothers would say. It wasn't about that. You are my son, first, second, and third. You were a gift to me. And by the way, I'm his most precious gift. So you better take care of me, motherfucker.
Of course.
So it was more about that. So and once again, in everything in my life, I'm a very structured and disciplined man. And I'm a very put together man. And I blame Islam for that. And Islam is the reason for all of these things in my life. And and once again, this is me. But I also know of people that Islam has ruined their lives.
Yeah.
They are going to trauma and they were physically broken and mentally broken and spiritually broken because of Islam. And we should be able to have those conversations and both conversations be heard. And we should find a middle ground. Because what you said, Isaiah, is correct. And I have seen the misogyny and the homophobia and the disgustingness of Islam.
Yeah.
But people don't want to talk about that. People just
want
to talk about one
it, or you try
or
to
the other,
or try to that's not quite I hate it when people always want to use Sodom and Gomorrah, that whole story, burn down the entire city because they're gay.
We don't got to worry about Sodom and Gomorrah. Some churches are Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Some mosques are Sodom and Gomorrah. Some temples
that's
are
not
Sodom
even
and Gomorrah.
If you actually
we don't got to go back that far. We can go back a couple of years.
Yeah.
Cut
it out. And it's
not
about that.
The jig is up.
That's the period.
It's like the jig is up.
Sounds like you're not on good terms with God, so you need to work on that.
Sodom and Gomorrah, as they're putting my money in their pockets and stealing from the churches and the temples and the synagogues and whatever. Shut up. There's more important things. If Jesus came back today, he would tell all these people, this is not what I meant. What the fuck are you guys doing?
I always say that when people step down here and be like, this is not what I meant.
This is not how I said this should go. You motherfuckers misquoted me, and he would have fucking sued all you guys for defamation of character.
He'd be like, give me them tithes and offerings.
But that's the beautiful, and that's why I tell LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah.
And go educate yourself, because remember when they used to say the most dangerous person, the most dangerous Negro is a Negro that knows his rights. The most dangerous person is an LGBTQ plus person that knows their rights and rights in all aspects of life.
And that's any person, any American, if you, the more you know,
can't nobody fuck with you.
Knowledge is power. So the more you know, the more power you have of your own life. And
can't nobody fuck with you.
No one's fucking with you.
But if you're a Catholic,
however,
if you're an LGBTQ plus person, go educate yourself in the religion
and let them know, because that way when these idiots come at you, you'll be good. You'll be ready.
You can get a machine gun of the doctrine
and
hit them where it hurts.
Yeah.
And they will be confused.
They won't know what to do. Actually, they will. They'll keep on deflecting, because they don't actually. A lot of people that are kind of like that I feel like, to some extent, are ignorant, have a lower IQ. They don't want to know. I know I'm blanking it out there, but I don't give a fuck.
You are dumb as fuck.
That's how I see people. People that are like that, I feel like, are fucking idiots. They're just not. So it's hard to argue with the idiot. You know, they always have that one saying, like, argue
It's
with the
true.
fool.
Yeah,
It's true.
If you argue with the fool, you are the fool.
that's why I don't.
But be prepared so you know yourself. You know what's going on. You could actually make your own educated decisions, because that's the problem with
these
people. You can't infringe on other people's rights because it's your right. Like, you know, everyone's like, oh, it's, you know, they're infringing on my rights. It's like, that doesn't give you, you can't infringe on other people's rights or religious beliefs, because that is, you feel so strongly, I'm trying to save them. Like, no, it doesn't work like that either. Like,
And that's why I like, and maybe the patience level is different, but I, you know, where I put that, or conversations like that, usually I put that right in my no. I put that right in my. I put that right in my no more convincing conversations box, because I am not.
AKA the bucket box.
But yes, I am not going to. I am not decreasing my IQ to educate you. I'm not doing that.
I don't argue with
I don't need to.
People who are in kindergarten. And there's a lot of people with the developmentally and intellectually, they are at the level of a kindergarten. Somebody who's why can I say that? Kindergartner?
Are you a kindergartner? Theo, you didn't tell me that.
It's your turn to have a speech.
Lord, I like. There's a lot of people that I'm a high schooler, bitch. Why would I be arguing with a child in kindergarten?
Yeah.
And there's some people like that. You have to. Unfortunately, you have to think that way. Like we are not in the same place intellectually. I'm sorry, and I'm not going to have these conversations.
However, just go get every now and then rip it into one though. I rarely do it, but when I do, I go hard. Like,
and and then let them know I am in. And that's when you let them know I'm in 12th grade.
Too long with that.
You are,
you tell when they've gone too long without someone like reading them or like putting them in their place. Like, nah. I guess it's gonna have to be me.
I guess.
Place.
I think because I spent I was saying this one time before, last season, I think, and I was saying to Theo, and I was like, I just feel like I've done this too much, where I've gone, you know what, you gonna get your breed today, and I'm like, you know what, and finally I'm like, I do not have the bandwidth, and I'm not wasting the bandwidth that I do have on you, because you are not important if you are not sitting in a space where you can have an elevated conscious conversation. Then what am I doing? Go read a book, unless you don't burn the book, but that's another story. I don't know, but okay.
No, but sometimes a good go fuck yourself is good,
right? That's a good.
Great.
That's effective. Says it all. It's against the law, whatever. Go fuck yourself.
Right.
Feels great. And it's like having a fizzy little Sprite. It just hits you in the right place, and you got to shake it off.
It's like,
fuck y'all. You know what? I want to share something. This is what I mean about when reciting the Quran. It's called Qiraat in Arabic. I'm gonna educate you motherfuckers on some shit. Okay. And the most spiritual place to be when I think of Islam. So just listen to a couple of seconds of this beauty. And this guy here ain't no joke, by the way. This is a big scholar here. Here you go. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. Let me tell you something. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, I just feel like...
yeah, that was.
This is what my relationship with Allah and my spirituality is. All that other garbage that these people are speaking, I have no. I don't know them. Okay, and I don't know. I don't know her. To quote Mariah Carey.
Who is she?
Who is she? This beautiful thing, and mind you, to do this, do you know how many slaps on my hand I got from my Muslim teacher, my imam, for me to be able to get this done right? And it was the most beautiful experience ever. Oh. I cried. It was torturous, and a good torture, like learning how to read.
Yeah.
and I don't regret it, and I enjoy it, and I wish that I can. Hopefully, my child isn't that hard-headed. I could pass that on down to her.
And that's the beautiful, that's the beautiful thing also about spirituality is there really is beauty in it if you can remember to kind of cast aside all of the
stigmas that go around it,
right, and all of the ugliness that can be religion sometimes. If you can sift through and find that beauty in spirituality, then I feel like you've kind of.
There's connections. You could be kind of spiritual in religion, like kind of like Theo was just saying, where him chanting that gives him a sense of feeling and sense of connection. Same thing with like in being Catholic, like learning the Lord's the prayer, like the Our Father, like all that. When we're all saying together, there's a sense of feeling that comes out of it, and
true community.
Community. We're all having that moment, and even when in pagan, like I'm gonna say culture, we're pagan culture. Being
do not bring the witches up in here. This is a whole different topic for the witches.
However,
the gypsies and the witches. Unacceptable.
No,
but
that is an actual. That's one of the fastest growing religions nowadays. But there's a lot of shit that goes along with that as well. Where, for example, saying quote unquote a spell is the same thing as chanting, like other religions do.
Vincent.
No, Vincent. Do not agree with Vincent. Vincent, you know what? He is Victor right now. Victor, you know what?
He's not Victor. But
you do not bring that Satanist shit up in here.
But he's kind of
That's not saying this, but there's a lot of stigmas that go along that whole area, which that is just another form of religion, given its respect.
But
when you said paganism, I knew where you were going. This son of a bitch.
He was like, "Here come Victor." I think all.
No, but for example, think about voodoo, and think about also another hoodoo, which is another form of. It's not voodoo, but I believe it's really taking roots in West Africa, which that's Nigerian and stuff like that, and they use saints that are found in Christianity. But it also pulls in chants. It's a really beautiful mix of, religion and spirituality, which I
probably predated Christianity now.
What's that?
No. I think so too. I think once again, and this goes back to what Isaiah said earlier. Anything African spirituality, I believe it to be the leader in all of this. We've been conditioned to believe that voodoo and hoodoo and Santeria and all these things are considered demonic and evil and all this thing, and that is not true. I think those.
But paganism is though. Paganism is evil though, Theo. I think that's what I'm getting out of you.
Well, I don't think. You know what? No, but like not paganism, but because I believe you got to burn witches at the stake.
I'm dead. Not true Piper and
1833 party of one. No, I'm joking. But no, seriously, I believe that all this voodoo and all this other stuff that's African spiritualism is a beautiful thing. Yeah. And we've been conditioned to believe by the colonizer or white supremacy or whitewashing or whatever term you might want to use, that anything from Africa is wrong and it's evil and it's not correct. And when I hear things like that, and then you do your research, you notice that a lot of these stuff outdate or come before Christianity and the Catholic Church. Yeah. And they're just a carbon copy of certain things from those religions.
And that's exactly where I was going with that earlier, is a lot of African spirituality predates the European Christianity and things of that nature. So that's kind of where I go with that, where I'm like, okay, well, I personally prefer to go to the root of, where all of these derivatives have sprung from. You know what I mean? Like I personally prefer to start with that which was demonized because it was thought of as, oh, this is evil, but it's not evil. These are the origins of all of that spirituality.
Even the Native Americans, throughout the Americas. They
Yeah.
didn't practice Catholicism and
Right.
Islam or Christianity.
Right.
These are spiritual based things.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were here before all these institutions and all this religion.
Right.
And
They
we
use whatever was
erased
around
them.
them, and that's, you know, that provided for them, didn't provide them, the sun.
We erased them out of the conversation. So were they also evil?
That's what they're received as initially. But
And Manifest Destiny said, get rid of them.
Yeah, Manifest Destiny said, actually, you know what?
You got to go.
White Jesus said, you know, like, and that's what I think is the root I always kind of circle back to, is to remember where all of the derivative religions and pieces of spirituality came from, and the place they derived from, and how they mutated and changed and took on completely different forms, you know, as we went through the millennia. So I always think of that when I, you know, I'll joke and say, you know, we joke and we always say, you know, Black Jesus and things like that, but it's like, you know, but actually Jesus was brown. You know, like literally, just in case anybody out there didn't know, he was brown.
They don't like that.
They don't like it. They're gonna hear it today. Listen, he was brown. Get over it. But anyway,
if we want to be real, Jesus looked like me.
Okay, I mean, for real, like
you never know.
I don't understand how that's such a hard thing to believe when it's like fucking. Yeah, look where everything went down. Like fucking Egypt. There was no white people in Egypt.
Okay,
the Romans didn't even want to stay in Egypt. Like,
okay, you better say that.
Hot,
you better say that.
Dark. Like,
listen, you better say that, because that's what I'm talking about. Like,
what do you mean Cleopatra wasn't Elizabeth Taylor? What do you mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like, people like talk about, like, listen, and I love Charlton Heston, but guess what? Moses didn't look like him. Like,
can you imagine?
Like, you know, like, I'm sorry.
No, thank you. But spirituality versus religion, and this is just part one of the conversation that we're going to have. We're going to have a broader conversation, a more in-depth conversation. Part two of this conversation coming up. This is more. We spoke more anecdotally. And I think we will be introducing Danielle Defoe into the conversation, and she will be able to give us go a little deeper with us. And just like Vincent, aka Victor, is joining us, Danielle Defoe will be also joining us for more episodes going forward.
Yes, and we're so excited to welcome her. Listen, y'all, like, I can't even see. I have no verbiage for her. She's phenomenal. Like,
but we can feel you smiling.
Literally, wow! I really am smiling.
I thought you were talking to me first. Like, I was like, "How do you know that?"
Yeah, no, I'm like, I really am smiling. Actually,
I'm a witch. That's why.
like Victor said.
Pleasant dreams. I'll be seeing you tonight.
Until next time, everybody.
Until next time.
Later, guys.